Having successfully launched 3 businesses, bilingual mum to 2 and entrepreneur Antonia Brown has connected with thousands of people, both French and international, since moving to the French Riviera. These connections allow her to speak with successful local businesses and inspirational people about life here on the Côte d'Azur and share it with you. Welcome to the Riviera Firefly podcast with your host, entrepreneur, and my mum, Antonia Brown.
Episode 8, Riviera Firefly gets a real treat. It's a South African duo, Hein and Wietzie, who now live in the Var, but have come here to the Côte d'Azur via England, Canada, and the States, among other places. Last year I decided I wanted to do a fun activity for me that I don't have the luxury of doing every weekend or once a week, so it really had to be a one-off. I'm a creative person and I love doing home renovations and I love upcycling. So you can check out my Pinterest boards to see some ideas I found. But anyway, I was looking around and I found Atelier Autentic. I think they were maybe advertising in my Facebook community group, Côte d'Azur Living. And it literally jumped out of the screen at me. I was like, yes, this is for me. So I book it up, and the powers that be were smiling down on me as it was a beautiful sunny day, and off I went to Lorgues in the Var to their atelier, which is in the grounds of their property, which also meant I got to admire their home, one that they built for themselves, which in France, as you probably know, is no mean feat. Now, I love a good upcycle, but what they can do with wood, a drill and some chalk paint is better than Pinterest. I recommend you check it out. Go on their Facebook and check it out. I think that they are an incredibly special find. The combination of creativity, learning, good food, and tons of laughter will that day really nurture my soul. They're so full of life and full of stories. They know how to live life, get out there, and to do something different. So, Fireflies, let's roll. Well, I'm thrilled to have Hein and Wietzie with us, who, among other things, run the Atelier Autentic. It's a furniture chalk paint workshop, and they do it from their beautiful property in Lorgues in the Var, and more recently from KidooLand outside of Sofia on Tipolis. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Do you know what? It's my pleasure because I'm absolutely thrilled, firstly, to have found you in the first instance, because I really miss doing fun activities for me. And so when I saw, I don't know how I stumbled across you, it was probably on Facebook. I saw you ran these courses. I called up my mum and I was like, we are going. And we went and spent the most wonderful day with you guys last year in your atelier.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And we had a wonderful day meeting you and your mum.
Well, it was just so much fun. It was such a wonderful day from start to finish. And we'll get onto that a little bit later. I kind of wanted just to let our listeners know a little bit about your background and sort of take you back to, your early days, really. I know you've lived all around the world, but I wondered if you each had a little childhood memory that you could share with us.
Sure, I think I'll start. It's not quite a childhood memory, but it's definitely a memory that might resonate well with listeners. I lived in a country called Botswana for a good period of my life. And what I remember about Botswana is nature. You know, you're very close to nature and wildlife. And one of my first safaris, as we call it, we went out and I woke up the evening in the tent, and I was woken by a sound of something outside the tent. And I woke up and I was petrified because it was my first safari, and I was lying there with my forehead against the tent side. And the next minute, I felt this warm breath over me coming through the tent canvas. And
oh, my goodness.
It was a hyena on the outside. It was sniffing my forehead right through the tent.
Oh, my.
I was petrified. But afterwards, I found out that you actually are quite safe in the tent as long as...
Do you think? Well, I've been to Kenya on safari out in the Masai Mara, and when you hear the lions roar in the middle of the night, you're like, there's just a piece of canvas between me and them.
Right, you're pretty safe there.
Well, brilliant. And Wietzie, over to you.
I don't really know what kind of a childhood memory I could possibly share. Well, grew up in South Africa.
Yeah.
So the wildlife and all of that. Lived in London for 3 years. That I thoroughly enjoyed because I didn't work. and I could go on the bus everywhere with my A to Z. And then off to Canada. So I think for a childhood memory would probably have been that I've always liked to be artistic, and but in my family that was not really the done thing. You know, it's like the middle class thing. You have to go to university and you have to study some profession. And they sent me for aptitude test, and it came back saying law or drama.
Poles apart.
Exactly. My parents said, it'll be law then.
But she still is the drama queen, as you know, Antonia.
I can understand as a parent, actually. You know, I've got a child who easily, like I told you, Wietzie, could go into law, but he's equally hugely creative. And it is kind of tricky because it's very competitive. Well, both worlds are. I guess it's, parents sort of think it's a safer world, the whole lawyer. So that's what you went off to become, was it? A lawyer?
Yes. So I practiced law as a barrister in South Africa for 8 years. And then I had to requalify again in Canada, and there I prosecuted financial crimes. So most of my time I've been in courtrooms, but that was the wonderful thing when we had our, as I call it, our midlife crisis, when we decided we are going to go out of the corporate world. We are tired of belonging to banks and mortgages and the rushed life, being like a little rat in a cage. We come to the south of France and we are going to paint.
Fantastic. Living the dream, really. I mean, it's what people sort of sit at home in England and all these different places watching TV thinking, oh, I wish I could be in the south of France, and, yeah, enjoying the sunshine.
Absolutely. It's a different life because you don't have a salary check at the end of the month waiting for you. But It's a very interesting, creative life where I said to Hein after our first workshop, I said, this is the first time in my life ever at the end of a day, somebody came to me and said, wow, I really had a nice day. I've spent days on end in a courtroom and nobody have thought that was any fun.
No, I'm guessing not for anyone. And okay, so you moved to France and suddenly become creative, the sunshine and the ambiance and everything. Even Hein, right? You've become creative. You spilt the beans recently on a book that you wrote.
Well, my creativity started with building a house.
Oh, yeah.
We first had to do that. We had to find somewhere to live. And so we spent 2.5 years building this house. And it was a very creative process. And I had to be very creative in terms of learning new skills very quickly. So I'm a real good researcher of how to do things on Google and watching videos.
Do you know, I think that's a really good point for down here, because I don't know about you, but I found when we did some building work on our house that if you called up many of the local builders, the quotes were just through the roof. And you kind of had to do a lot of Googling research, looking across Europe for supplies, that kind of thing. I don't know if that's what you did, but I know we did.
In fact, yeah, we did. We sourced a lot of our stuff over the internet. We were lucky in many ways in terms of, we found some really great opportunities to buy, for instance, our tiles at sales and things like that. But you have to be very creative. Otherwise, you simply cannot do this in any way find the economics to work. So, and by doing a lot of the things ourselves and managing it ourselves, I think we managed to save ourselves those headaches of the big quotes and expensive bills.
And your island in your kitchen is just the most creative thing I've seen in a kitchen. Like, I've seen things like that on Pinterest, but never in real life. Go on, tell us about that. Can you try and describe it for us?
Well, I will. It started off with, Wietzie thinks I can do anything. And
you can.
She showed me this picture of this island she wanted. And we did get an Italian cabinet maker to quote us. And I think it started off 25,000 euros for the island. So we realized that we have to be a little bit more creative. And I took some of the pictures, and then Wietzie came up with a great idea. Why don't we build this island ourselves out of bureaus, sideboards? So, we all know Le Bon Coin. So we looked high and low in Le Bon Coin. We found 3 sideboards that sort of matched the style we wanted. And I took them apart and reassembled them in a form that basically formed the base of the island. And then we applied our Autentico chalk paint to the wood, and repainted the whole kitchen in Autentico paint, and had someone just come and drop a slab of granite on top.
Yeah, it's really fantastic, and it's not sort of it's kind of an old-fashioned design sideboard, isn't it? So it just looks absolutely spectacular. Yeah, is that the thing that you're most proud of in your house?
I think so, because it's got all these curved wood and rounded doors, and what I'm really proud about is because we found those sideboards for €80 each. 80
wow.
Euro.
So that's a big saving on that 25,000.
Big one.
It was, and it was really interesting finding them and then going to fetch them. The one we picked up close by, but the buffet sideboard was on the 2nd floor, and the staircase was so narrow that it was impossible to bring it down the staircase. So we had to lower it out of the room, secured by a rope.
Fantastic. But you really wanted it, and you knew the real value of it, so you had to get it.
Yeah, we're not going to leave that one behind.
Well, real hats off to you guys. The house is really stunning, and I think it's really inspirational. That was something I came away from the workshop there, really inspired with all the different things that you can do with the paints, and we'll come on to that in a bit more detail. But I just want to go back with you finished your house in the south of France. You're out on the terrace with your glass of Prosecco, admiring your hard work, the paint's drying, and you're a bit bored now, right? Because your project's done. So what's next? What came next? Was it the book or was it the workshops?
I think the book came earlier. The book was done in our first year when we visited France, just on a sabbatical to see if we were
okay.
And obviously we basically never went back. We decided we'll just stay. But the paint workshops came after the house because, as I think I might have told you, we painted the whole house in chalk paint because it's so environmentally friendly and so low on those volatile components that are so dangerous and harmful to you. And in that process, we discovered the beauty of painting furniture, because most of our furniture now listen to this, we imported from France to Canada in our house there, and we loved it. It was all this dark furniture, and it looked beautiful.
It really worked in Canada, the dark wood, because it was very traditional, and it's the whole setting, the house that we had was a little bit more British in style. So the dark furniture really worked there. The minute we brought it back here in the bright sunlight, it just looked dreary and dismal and old. It looked like my grandmother's house.
Yeah, I think that happens so much here, actually, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's how we started. We just, started painting the furniture, and I was dubious in the beginning because it's quite a huge undertaking. But what convinced me is when we painted the shutters, I struggled to make for such a long time because they were very difficult to make. The curved windows, and all the arches I had to cut. And when Wietzie said we should paint those in chalk paint, and I was, no, I'm not too sure about this. And we did in the end, and it's now almost 3 years later, and they still look stunning. So I think that inspired us. The fact we can apply this paint and make it look really good. You have all these paints, these really great techniques you can apply in the end to make it look different and give them all a unique style and look. Yeah, that's what inspired us.
That's what you teach in your course, actually. I remember that is we were doing all like a washed look, and what are the other kind of styles there are?
So we start out with doing a 2-color tone effect. And that is just really putting two colors on top of one another and sanding it down so that the darker or the lighter color that you picked as your first coat shines through. That you can have it just like that with your wax on top, and that is beautiful. But if you want something a little bit more unique, we show you how to do a dry rub, which is you take a little bit of your paint and you just rub it onto the painted surface that you've got there, either your two colors or just one. And that gives you a beautifully dragged effect, almost as if the furniture item has come over a really long period of time and somebody has painted it repeatedly and now the different colors are shining through. So that's the one technique. And the other one is a wash, where you just dilute your paint with quite a lot of water and then you wash the whole cabinet. That also gives you a really soft, almost romantic look to the piece.
I think when I was going around your atelier, there were some things that weren't wood that you painted, weren't there?
Wietzie, I'm parking my car outside of the property nowadays because I'm terrified Wietzie might take my car.
What's the weirdest things that you've painted, the most unusual thing?
I think for me, definitely painting material. I'm talking about heavyweight material, material on dining room chairs. Yeah. Painted successfully. And, a dining room chair gets a lot of traffic and then the material gets hammered in the process of sitting on it and getting up. And we painted the fabric with the chalk paint, and it just came out beautifully because we didn't want to recover them because it's so costly in France. So we just repainted it and it looks stunning.
It does, and it doesn't come off on your clothes when you sit on it or anything like that, does it?
No, not at all. And we've done the same with a day bed we have upstairs. We've just repainted the material, and you can sleep in it. And of course, the paint just doesn't come off. It's just it's incredible how well it works for that.
Yeah, I also like the paint on metal. You can do it on any old lamp that you've had, and especially if it's become like a really horrible garish sort of a color, you just put some chalk paint over it and suddenly it looks gorgeous, like a marbled effect almost.
Oh, a candlestick.
Yeah.
Candlesticks look just stunning.
Are they? I saw those on your Facebook, actually. They really look stunning. I love them. I've got to find me some candlesticks on Le Bon Coin now. And what about, did I also see a picture of some urns of some sort? What were they?
Oh, those were plastic garden pots.
Wow.
We repainted.
Plastic?
Yeah, and you can be really, really creative with that because you can apply different techniques. And most of these garden pots have, they have some pattern or some indentations on them. So you can be really creative and apply waxes and dark paints and we've had lots of fun with garden pots. These old dreary, orangey looking plastic pots.
Yeah, that you usually recycle because you don't know what else to do with them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what would be your typical student that comes to your workshops?
I think, our typical student is a woman.
Very creative person.
Is a lady, mostly ladies.
Yeah, but I really think I would start with it's creative. It's somebody that enjoys spending time creating something out of nothing.
Yeah, transforming and upcycling and that kind of thing.
Exactly. I mean, for all of us, and I think it is such a wonderful green way to live. Don't just throw things away, change them.
I know that it doesn't always go smoothly because I've seen, I think on both the workshops I went to, someone came along with a piece of wood that maybe had some kind of treatment on it or something like that. What happens in that situation? So we've bought our paint from you and we get home and we're trying to apply it. Are there any things that we should do to the wood before we start applying the paint?
Yeah, there's a particular varnish that was used in the late 60s and 70s on wood. We haven't experienced that in Canada, but we've seen it here in France. And what happens if you paint a lighter color onto that wood? You experience what they call bleed-through. It doesn't matter how many paints of coat you put on, this varnish finds a way of coming through the paint. So it distorts the pigment and distorts the color. So typically what we do, if we find a piece and we suspect it might have a bleed-through problem, we apply a quick paint just in a small area, see if there's any bleed-through. And if there is, we give it a coat of primer. And the primer takes care of the problem. And it's just like another chalk paint, but it's really got real thick pigmentation in it. And prevents the bleed-through from happening. And then from there you go. You can just carry on as usual.
Okay, so that would be something one would do, because I know when I was doing my frame, I noticed that the paint didn't adhere quickly. I should probably have washed it down with vinegar or something. I'm not very good at the prep work before, but if I'd have washed it with vinegar, I think it would take. It's all dry now and it looks fantastic now.
Yeah, the only thing I would caution against when you try and apply your paint the first time is, when there's an oily base on your piece of wood or your furniture. That comes from years and years of being in a kitchen or near some area where there was oil. And the paint struggles to adhere to that because it comes off easily. So a quick wash with a light solution of vinegar and hot water and a little bit of bicarb soda, and you wash the oil off, and then there you go. There's no need to spend hours and hours of sanding down.
Good.
We haven't sanded any of our pieces. We basically started painting.
And it just stays for years. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So what's coming up in 2017 for you guys? What have you got on your calendar for this year?
Well, we have started, as you know, some of our workshops at KidooLand, which we thoroughly enjoy because it gives us a whole new venue which places us closer to our clients in that area. And we have plans to run some advanced workshops for repeat clients because, as Wietzie's already indicated, we show 3 techniques in our fun workshops, but there are so many others that we want to share, and our students are coming back and say, okay, I've mastered this now, what do I do next? So I think there's appetite for doing something along the advanced course.
Absolutely. And on your Facebook page, you're obviously going to be putting, which I'll put in the show notes and stuff, you'll be putting the events that are coming up. Do you ever put any videos of techniques for people that maybe were on your course could quickly go back and get a recap?
I'm in the process of making a video just so people can see before and afters. Because I think
cool. Yeah.
So, we will put some videos up there because I think they're very powerful.
Absolutely.
I really like your idea, actually, of putting some tips up.
Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah,
so I think we should make a few videos just showing some of the basic tips, and then maybe a little bit of a pre-show on what the more advanced workshop would look like.
Yeah, fantastic. That'd be great. So let us know, and we'll definitely share that through the Riviera Firefly Facebook as well.
Thank you.
So, okay, well, I know that you guys are going to be busy painting more things, so I've got a couple more things to ask. One is, have you got a favourite place? Because I know you've got the most beautiful dog, so you must be out there walking him and exercising him. Where would you go on a typical walk out in the VAR, a place that you'd share with our Riviera Firefly listeners?
I share this with hesitation because it's our favorite place.
I know. There are only very special people listening, don't worry.
Yeah. But just on the other side of Ramatuelle, there's a place called Cote. And there's an area you can go. You have to walk, and it's quite a bit of a trek. You get to a beach area called l'Escalier, and I might not pronouncing it properly, but I think it's l'Escalier. And it's a absolutely breathtaking beach. There's quite a few little coves, small coves, and they're littered with old wood trunks that have been washed out onto the beach. So there's a place you can sit down and put your back against. The sand's crystal white. The water is this typical azure blue. We love taking our dog there because he can run free and just enjoy himself.
Well, I promise we won't all come on the same day. So thanks for sharing that one with us. What about a favourite book? So we're down on the beach and we're sunning ourselves and we're enjoying being switched off and not connected to Facebook and everything like that. What would be a book that you'd recommend to read this year?
I'm reading a series of books right now by an author called Robert Jordan. And he's written, he's created this fantasy world in which a couple of characters are taken from their youth when they were starting out as just being shepherd boys to a new world where they've become real powerful figures in this fantasy world. And I cannot put these books down. At night, sometimes I wake up because some of the scenes in the books, with them fighting trollocs and demons, wakes me up. But it's so realistic and written so well. And I'm on my third book now, and there's a series of...
It's 14.
14.
Wow.
He died writing the 14th. Is that
No, the 11th.
The 11th, and then he put down the last three books basically in a draft format, and someone else picked up and completed the series. But and they're just amazing books. They draw you in, and you become part of that world, and you can't get out of it.
That's brilliant. And you know what's brilliant is to have books that men like, because it's really easy to find books for the ladies, and finding one for Mr. B to read is always a bit more of a challenge. So that's a top tip. Thank you. So let's finish with an inspirational quote to take us through 2017. What's in your mind right now as something to keep us going?
Oh, we've got a few actually that we live by. One is fortune favors the brave.
Yeah, lovely.
Because, you have to be brave down here in the south of France. It's not all just the sunshine and rosé wine.
No, for sure.
And my brother has got a favorite one. He says, luck is a skill.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Do you know what? And it was something I read the other day, especially women, when we accomplish something, we very often say, oh, it's just luck. And actually, the skill is seeing the opportunity as well and seizing on the luck. And
Absolutely.
No, I agree. And to me, one of the biggest lessons we've learned over the last, 3-4 years down here is really to be brave enough to get out of your comfort zone. Because too often we get caught up in our comfort zones, and it's so easy to stay there. And we are afraid to make the change. But getting out of your comfort zone and forcing yourself to try something new and to tackle something new is quite a life-changing experience.
Well, Hein and Wietzie, you absolutely epitomise that. You are brilliant. I love you guys, and I wish you all the best with the Atelier Autentic. I really hope people come out to Lorgues really to see the amazing island and experience the painting courses out there, and to meet you guys. It's really a fantastic day out. I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. Thanks, guys, for joining me. And we'll catch up again really soon.
Brilliant. Thank you, Antonia.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
So there you have it. Weren't they fabulous? Do check out their Facebook page, /furniture.chalk.paint. You can get the links in the show notes on the Riviera Firefly page on Facebook or through rivierafirefly.com. I'm going to post some of my before and after photos there as well, so that you can see how chalk paint can transform furniture. I was really scared the first time I painted a big armoire, a totally different colour, but it turned out fantastic. It's a piece I absolutely love looking at. They've got mini workshops in February and another in March coming up at KidooLand, and more over in the Var. So if you're creative, if you love relooking, upcycling, repurposing, whatever you like to call it, do go and check them out. I want to thank KidooLand.com for sponsoring these podcasts. Basically, every show takes several hours to record, to edit, and publishing has got many associated costs. So I can only do that with their backing. So shout out to KidooLand, the little English school outside of Sophia Antipolis, who are going to be back soon in the Beachcomber French Riviera 4-star hotel in the holidays. We celebrate 10 years of business in the south of France this year at KidooLand, so keep an eye on us as we're going to have some really fun things coming up and prizes to win, that kind of thing. And I really want to thank all of you who have supported us over the years. You are literally in the thousands of families who have walked in our doors, who've had confidence in me and in my company, and keep coming back and telling your friends about us. So, you know what? It's been no mean feat running a business and a venture here in France, whether you're big or small, especially as a foreigner, and it's down to all of us to support each other and to share the love. So do tell people about Hein and Wietzie. Go back to previous episodes and hear how Julia Edgley and Lizzie Parks created their own niche down here in the south of France. You can subscribe and like the Riviera Firefly podcast. You can review it on iTunes, and please share it to your friends so that we get more listeners and get the message out there. And then coming up, we've got Phoebe Thomas, Faye Villalba, Tina Silva and Tracy Leonetti, and they're going to be talking about how they've set up business services, hotels and spas, yoga workshops, gîtes, amazing blogs, etc. And I'd love to hear from you if you've moved to the south of France and you've started a venture. It's really important we get your message out there. It's also important, more now than ever, I think, that we put the south of France back on the map as a place to visit. Last year's atrocities damaged our tourist industry enormously, and I don't mean the big hotels, I mean the little B&B, the gîte owner whose bookings for the summer are drastic. It's going to have a roll-on effect on everyone. No bookings for them mean no tourists in our shops, no one spending money. So I'm not going to go down a big negative here. You know what this means and what's going on. What we need is a solution. We need to take action. Use social media once per week in the first quarter of this year and promote the Côte d'Azur. Put a photo of a hike that you're on or a beautiful sunset, or do a Facebook Live video, perhaps of you at the Provençal market. We're so privileged to be in this beautiful part of the world. Let's get it back in the news for the right reasons. Let's get the tourists here. Let's get supporting our local businesses who really depend on the tourist industry. Hashtag Côte d'Azur living. Okay, well that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. And thanks for promoting the Côte d'Azur. Hashtag Côte d'Azur living. Until the next time, goodbye.
This episode was brought to you by Riviera Firefly for Côte d'Azur living by your host and my mum, Antonia Brown. Please subscribe, like and share. Until the next time, au revoir les Fireflies.